Graphic design? Can you make a living at that?
Three, two, one, fun, 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 fun.
Welcome to Design Futures, a show about what happens after design school. I'm Chris St. Cyr, and my guest on this episode is Eric Cotten. How are you?
Good. How are you, Chris? What's going on?
Good. I see a dog in the background, but I'm going to give you
Yes.
a little intro. Erica is an experienced consultant at Salesforce. I'm excited to understand what that is. Some of the clients she's worked with: Chipotle, Target, and Toyota. She's also an affiliated broadcaster on Twitch and a 2014 graduate of the College of St. Rose. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. Oh my goodness.
Is that Luna in the background?
Yeah, that's Luna. She's running around.
Oh,
She'll be
yeah.
casually going back and forth while we're doing this. She'll probably end up on that chair asleep at some point.
What kind of dog is Luna?
She's a Chihuahua mix. She's a
Oh.
very tall Chihuahua. I get very many double takes when people see her and get confused. So,
It's like, wait, that's a very large
large Chihuahua.
Yeah. What have you been doing? All kinds of stuff.
Oh man.
How's life?
Life's good. Life's been crazy. I mean, I think we're all having a crazy time. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of video gaming, which, I mean, you mentioned Twitch, so that's like, video games are my jam, my free time jam. But
what games do you play?
oh man, I do a lot of Dead by Daylight, which is a horror co-op game. I do World of Warcraft. I always like, I say
That's
that
still around?
yeah, it is. Yeah.
You laugh.
I know. I giggle every time I say it because I'm like, when I talk to people who don't game, they're like, oh, World of Warcraft. Okay. Like, she's one of those. Like, it's very fun, you know?
Yeah.
I like magic. I'm a magic gal, so it's fun there.
What's magic?
Just like the concept of being like a mage.
Oh,
and,
okay.
like,
Yeah.
throw spell, like
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you can be one of those in World of Warcraft. What other games?
Okay.
Overwatch, which is like a very like cartoony shooter. I've been playing a lot more of Call of Duty lately, which is definitely not a cartoony shooter, more of a normal, like, trying to be as real life as possible shooter. Lots of stuff. So, and I'm still at Salesforce. Be there like 4 years in February. So it's been a while now.
And so what is Salesforce? I mean, I looked it up, but you're gonna have to, like, from your perspective, it's some kind of huge consulting customer service platform. So
yeah.
what is it? What's your elevator pitch?
But when my company initially, or the company I was at, got acquired, I had no idea what it was either. It took me a while to even understand too. So essentially, it's a software that people pay for. It is browser based, and you are essentially buying a toolkit that allows you to better service your customers or better sell to your customers, depending on who you are. So we have so many thousands of clients, and they have licenses for the software, and then they have their customer database inside of it. And so that you can see like your latest opportunities, your latest leads, your latest service calls, what their customer sentiment score is, that kind of thing. So it's technically CRM, which is customer relationship management. That's like the industry term for it. And they're kind of like what's the word? Like the Apple of CRM is essentially what it is. Yeah. So
yeah, I know the name. I mean, you see it everywhere.
I didn't even know the name when I got acquired. I was like, oh, it's a blue cloud. Okay, sure. Like that's a logo. That's all I knew.
Yeah, I kept seeing it and like, wow, that looks like something I would have no idea what it is. I watched the intro video and it kind of cleared things up. It was
okay. Interesting.
Centered around this one person who owns a grocery store, and like, I don't know, all of his suppliers and his marketing team and the sales team. And yeah, it was, it seems very in depth. And what is your role there? What's like, you say experienced consultant.
Yes.
Is that?
It's a UX designer. It's
okay.
It's a UX designer. So essentially my part of the organization is an agency inside of Salesforce. We are essentially project-based consultants to go on a project. Usually we're traveling. Unfortunately, that's not the case right now. We assess their problems. We do discovery. We do all the normal design spiel. Then we take what their issues are with the platform or with their current situation, whatever the case is that's associated, that can be controlled by UX, right? And assess the best way to adjust their UI, adjust their the UX in general, essentially try our best to make their jobs easier through the software, which is nice.
And so what is your role as a UX designer? What are you doing on what do you do on a daily basis? Like, what do you have deliverables? Are you writing? What's your job like?
It really depends on the project and like what the needs are of the project. Cause obviously, like you said, Salesforce is very in depth. So it has like, we have so many clouds, quote unquote, marketing, we have community cloud, we have sales cloud, we have service cloud. It's a lot of different aspects that all of this stuff covers. So it really depends on the project. If I were on a project for a certain cloud, I would definitely be expected to do some user interviews for research to gather myself and probably another designer. Usually there's at least two of us on there. And we're doing that research to gather the information that to know what to do next, essentially. And then after we get that feedback, we figure out where the issues are lying, and we have to do rapid prototyping, wireframing in Sketch at this moment, although we're kind of shifting to Figma, which is cool. It really depends. I have to do a lot of story grooming sometimes because we work in, it's for essentially sprint-based working. So it's really was created for devs, I guess, from what I understand anyway.
Developers?
Yes, developers, sorry. Developers, yeah. So essentially they'll create a bunch of different write-ups for requirements that the business has. So business requires, X, Y, and Z. And then each of those pieces, if they're in, sort of probably a large idea, like this interface is broken or something, you know what I mean? Something very big, which was usually referred to as an epic. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you take that and you break it down into smaller pieces so that people can essentially get more work done by breaking it into smaller pieces. It's a lot of, really nice task setting is really what it is. So a lot of times developers need wireframe representation to make that story into reality, because sometimes what they see in their head and what they end up developing might not match the best UX experience, user experience, because they're developers and not UX designers, which is fair. Okay. I would say I've been doing a lot more of that piece of the work lately, which is, I think, is more business analyst type of concept. I think that I sort of fell into a lot more of that going into Salesforce. We're very business focused, KPIs and all that kind of stuff.
What's KPI?
Key performance indicators.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
What's a key performance indicator? What's an example?
Conversion rate, average handle time in a call center. It could be a million, I guess, depending on the company, but
okay. That's all part of the story grooming you're talking about. So that's one thing you might be doing.
Yes.
Right? And you're doing wireframing as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Figma and what was the other thing you mentioned?
Sketch,
right.
Yeah. So we'll definitely, right now we're doing it all in Sketch. We have, because of the remote aspect of work lately, it's been really hard to deal with passing files back and forth. So Figma allows us not to have to do with that so much. We are using Abstract, which is like a GitHub for design files kind of, but it's
GitHub's that like coding kind of website
repository. Yeah. So you essentially like take a version of a master file out, make your edits, then merge it into the master file. And so no one is working on the same version of anything at any time. So you don't lose work, you keep work, you have a repository of all of the updates made on the work. It's very messy.
It's interesting you mentioned Figma, because when I was doing some research, I came across the article or, your Medium post, but that was a while ago. That wasn't like recent. So that was something you were already investigating or looking into, and now you're using it a little bit more. Or
I like to call myself an early adopter because I tend to I tend to just find things and I'm like, oh, I'm going to check this out. This seems cool. That kind of thing. So I've been using Figma on personal projects probably since, maybe 2017. I don't remember when I wrote that article. I
2017.
Is it? Oh, nice. Yeah. So it might even been earlier than that. I might have been on it maybe in 2016. With big companies comes lots of red tape, So it was a lot of people had to push for us to be able to use Figma because Sketch had already been implemented as the design program to use at our company. So it took a lot longer. Happened to be our business tech team who was the designers on there. We're like, we need to use this. This is great. We're in a pandemic kind of thing. And so it's only been just sort of allowed for us to be more open about that and like using that in the last few months, which is nice. So
because it's browser based. right?
It is there is an app version,
Okay.
a desktop app, but it's only for Mac, just like Sketch. But the browser base allows people to use it on PCs if they wanted to. I like to call it like the Google Docs of design programs. That's why it's really nice. You just keep working together, or
Yeah,
oh,
multiple people can be in the same file and working on
yeah,
different pieces of it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And has all those kind of collaboration tools. I haven't used Figma, but you can comment and
Yeah, you can comment. You can do like present mode, where it gets rid of all of your UI, and then people can follow your mouse. So if I'm presenting, I'm just going to drag and move things over, and everyone's screen will sort of follow me, and I can walk through things. They have a prototype ability directly inside of it as well. They have a code export for not direct code. It can show all of your your fonts, your hex codes for your colors, that kind of stuff listed out for the devs, so that they don't have to grab those pieces. It's pretty cool. It's pretty nice.
So wait a minute, you're not talking about any of the Adobe products, right? So do you use any of those, like, or in your area of design, is that just not something that you use much of?
Not really anymore, I'll be honest. I use Illustrator for if I have to design icons, because I still like the factor abilities of Illustrator better. Does it happen a lot with me? No, only because I'm working with a design system, and we have out of the box like icons that I'm supposed to be using. So it's not really my own icons I'm doing, which means Illustrator is not very much in my toolbox anymore either. And every now and then I have to crop an image, and I like to do that better in Photoshop. Yeah, I'm not really using Adobe products.
You mentioned something about icons. So do you have a whole like visual language system you access, and you're not really creating those assets, you're just referring to the library?
Yeah, unless we're doing like custom component, we have all the entire Salesforce design system, like at lightningdesignsystem.com, so anybody can download it, use it, see it. Yeah, a lot of the time I'm just designing from our design system that we're working with, which is very comprehensive, very helpful, and allows me to ideate a lot quicker, I think. So it's really helpful.
Yeah, you don't have to think about some of those details. You're focused on other kinds of problem solving.
Right. Absolutely.
I do have some images. I want to take a look at some of these, because I want you to talk about something, because you have the
I'm just
Salesforce,
gonna cringe so much.
You have the Salesforce stuff, but then you have all these other projects that you've worked on, and
I just do like too much stuff, honestly.
Okay, so this one, I remember you talking about this when you came to St. Rose. I think you showed this at the alumni event. I just want to show it also because it's a visual of something that you might work on that is not that common to, say, the graphic design world, right? So like this information architecture, these user flow kind of maps and things like that. So what is this one?
This was for a concept redesign of the Twitch iOS app. Twitch is a gaming platform that I frequent readily. I was very frustrated at their iOS pieces, because a lot of the gaming community is very Android heavy, very PC heavy. And at the time I now have an Android, ironically, but at the time I had an iPhone, and it was very frustrating. I feel like there are a lot of pieces that I just didn't make sense to me on their app at the time. And so I was like, I'm just going to do this side project where I'm redesigning this. And I'm such a nerd about user flows. I love user flows so much. My brain is so left heavy, so organization heavy, that user flows get me excited. So I just was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it.
What's a user flow? Just to
sorry, I'm using all the jargon without being explanatory. So user flow is essentially the ability for a user to go from a starting point to an ending point in terms of maybe a journey that they're doing. So maybe on Twitch, a user flow would be like, I'm user A and I'm looking to find a content creator to follow, to chat in their page, and maybe to click a link to their other social site from their page or something like that. So just something that allows the UX designer to analyze all of the bases and kind of flex the information architecture and move it around for the most logical way to organize the information.
This is a project you worked on a little while ago as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
So
is-
this was one before I was at Salesforce. We were, I was at my agency Sequence. This is right before, I think a month before we got acquired by Salesforce. Chipotle was our client. Excuse me. We were a consultancy. They had this terrible, terrible UI, as you can see, for their online ordering system that is essentially taking in the online orders that they have, gotten for pickup. They have a separate line
Okay.
on inside of Chipotle that they were using to write down what's needed, any customizations, how many orders they have for each time slot of the day. And it had to be on a TV screen for someone that's expediting where they have to do the bagging and put everything
Mhm.
away. But then additionally for the people making the orders. So this was the expedition screen. So this is if I were like, I'm working, making sure that everything's together. I'm getting these bags ready and putting them on the pickup sort of shelves, I guess, if you call them. It's pretty rough to look at.
Yeah, so we're looking at this interface that's bright green and bright yellow with lots of white next
Yeah.
to those bright colors. Yeah, and then this was the same screen or a similar screen that you redesigned. Is that
It
right?
is a similar screen. Yeah. So I had to show a couple error states in this one, but this is the Expo Station. This is the Expo screen. So essentially I tried my best to sort of make it feel more touch focused because they were working on either, I can't remember if it was a touch, like a big tablet or a touch TV or something. It was touchable, but also clickable. I tried to adjust it so it felt like it made more sense for a reduction in space, because the last one is like you have to click to open the time slot, and then you can collapse it, and then you can click and open to open each meal and all this other stuff, and it just felt like too much, honestly. So what I did was I just adjusted it so we have essentially a sidebar nav on the left, but where it functions as tabs. And then you have the different components for each customer, and then the ordered items underneath. You can see if they're late or behind by the red icon. I was pretty proud of this when I did it. I was like, this looks so much better. Oh my goodness! Like I was pretty happy with
so much
myself.
better than the
Thank
other
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like using the conventions of green and red to begin with, right? I mean,
Right.
most people are going to understand that, that what those colors signify, right? In
Right.
the face. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there was one little note that I remember reading on the website was about just being really aware of the typography or the size of type, because it was on
Yeah.
a screen that was sitting across from or sitting on a wall that people were a few feet away from it. So like just that idea of thinking about type in a very different context than a lot
Yeah.
of designers think about type as just, handheld distance or, if you're books or magazines, but maybe thinking about it differently if it's a poster, but certainly something large but on a screen.
We honestly wouldn't have known that unless we had done on-site user research. I didn't do it myself at the time. I was just the visual designer at Sequence. So we had our UX researchers go out to a bunch of different studio or stores, and yeah, they have burrito bowl making station, and then they're probably 20 to 36 inches away from the monitor. So we definitely needed to stick with like a bigger font size.
That's a great story for this design in the real world. There's a lot of people think like design is just like, let's make some pretty pictures. Let's make it look
Right.
cool, right? But to really go out there and do that research and to watch people, in this case, the employees of a company, like interact with an interface or interact with the thing that you're designing or that you're redesigning, right? And to see what you could do to improve that design to help them be more efficient in their job or whatever the problem is you're trying to solve. So we'll switch gears entirely. So
Yeah.
comic books. Oh, and I love comic books. But, so this is something, again, it was like a brief moment. I remember you writing something, you posted something a while back and you were doing the lettering for this. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So the art here is done by my friend Jonna Moore, who's based in the Philippines. The writer is my friend Brendan, who lives in Canada, and he sort of got me into comics, honestly. I always love art. Like, I mean, you can't like go to art school without loving art. I've always been an art fan, but I hadn't given really comics a chance. I think I would like to blame society and say, well, I was a girl and you didn't show me comics, but I feel like I didn't go out of my way to look for it. The art that you can create in comics is something that I have absolutely grown so much respect for. And I got really intrigued by the lettering aspect. I was like, who are people just throwing stuff on here? Like, do the artists do this? I didn't even know letterers were a thing.
Yeah, they get their own credit.
Yeah, yeah, the
those
whole
comic books.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I have 2. I have 2 credits.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and it was something that I taught myself. I obviously went to design school, so that helps. I got really into like, oh, well, this is the etiquette. It's not sort of like design etiquette, that type etiquette that they have in the community, the lettering community, which is so interesting to learn about. I read a couple books on it. Yeah, I just decided to give it a go, and I happened to know artists and
Yeah.
author friends that needed letterers, and I was like, I'll do it. I'm here.
That's fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely like a different. I mean, this feels so different than what we were just talking about, like Salesforce and
Yeah.
like customer service platform, relationship platforms, and things. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
very
just great to
different.
see like this range, and I know you have all these other interests as well. So it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah. I'm a big nerd, so
yeah.
a
Well,
design nerd.
think we all are, or
Yeah,
maybe I
that's fair.
guess we have our own interests. One of the other things that I did come across that so there's that article that you wrote about Figma, but there's also the other article about conferences. It's definitely this thing that is changed in the past year.
Yeah,
So my question, because you had this article, it's like in the post-COVID world, right? When we're all
yeah,
done with this, hopefully by the end of this year,
yeah.
what conferences are you looking forward to going to going out there and meeting people? Like, do you have conferences that you're bummed out that you didn't get to go to them this past year?
Oh, absolutely. And not only just design, because I love design cons, but I also love comic cons and
Mhm.
gaming cons and that kind of stuff too. It's just like this whole world where you meet like-minded people, and you just have like, you have drinks and you talk about dope stuff that you both love. It just, you feel so much at home in a
Mhm.
place that's brand new. So
Yeah.
it's really one of my favorite experiences to have. One that I didn't get to go to this year, which we got refunded for, unfortunately, was CropCon. So CropCon is normally based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And we went, myself and a few of my friends that I graduated from St. Rose with.
Who are they? Let's mention them.
Mackenzie Carey, Ashley Blanchard, Mike Burrows, Courtney Carpenter, and then your other student from Sage, Ron Gibbons. We turned into sort of just this design con group. We're like, we're going to go to a con every year. We're going to just see what's new. We're going to have a good time, explore new city, that kind of thing. So we were actually supposed to go. Originally, CropCon was going to be a cruise this year. They were like, we're going to do a cruise. It's going to be really cool, blah, blah, blah. Then there was a major hurricane at the end of 2019 in the Caribbean. So then they were like, "Oh, right, we're going to do it in Austin. It's going to be really great." I'd never been to Austin. So I was like, yeah, let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
This sounds
Austin's
great.
fun.
Yeah. And then they kept pushing it and pushing it. They would go like, it hit March 15th or something. They're like, "All right,
Oh yeah.
I think we're still going to have it. It's going to be fine." And then we get 2 weeks later, they're like, "Oh, we're going to push it by a couple months." And so they
Oh,
said
yeah.
that. And then eventually they were like, "Okay, here's a refund." So it was really disappointing because I love, especially the people that I just mentioned. I don't live near them anymore. We used to all be in Albany together, and they're some of my closest friends. I've been to their weddings. It was pretty disappointing. Another con, I love Twitch. So TwitchCon was supposed to happen in September, which is in San Diego, gorgeous part of the country, gorgeous weather. And that's where I get to meet all the other people that not necessarily design, but love gaming and just hanging out and talking about nerd stuff. And I can go buy Harry Potter merch, which is like a thing that I love, and just veg out and be in a gorgeous beachside city. And that was really disappointing because I also have a lot of friends in the UK and in Europe as well through gaming. And so I look forward to that, to be able to see them, because it's much more reasonable that I'd go and drive out and meet someone that I knew in Boston, because
Mhm.
I only like a few hours from there. Whereas flying to England might be a little more dramatic of a trip.
Right.
So I usually use those cons for the connection with them and getting to know that person.
So tell me a little bit more about Twitch. I signed up for an account
I saw you
because
followed me when I was live.
yeah,
Thank
uh,
you.
sure. I mean,
Mhm.
St. Rose has an esports team, so
Yes.
I was like, okay, well, I'll check it out, and because it has elements of design. There's an interface to the games and an interface to the websites and
Yeah.
motion graphics and like all this stuff that I could find a way in.
Twitch in general is great. Fantastic people. There are people that I have met through Twitch and gaming that I feel like if I had never known them, never met them, I feel like I would have missed out in my life kind of thing. I started streaming on Twitch in 2016, just doing creative stuff. So I was doing like art, like illustration and design. I would swap off. And then I recently, over the last like 6 months or so, swapped to just games because I got sort of imposter syndrome. And it's really, there's a lot of pressure to go on stream and talk about I'm doing this and you should know this design principle because of like
Yeah.
I didn't go to school for education. It was
Right.
very, very casual for me. So for me to feel like I needed every second to make a perfect visual for someone to look at was really, really hard and really stressful for me. Whereas gaming, you don't like me? Look at the pretty picture on my screen, like
Yeah.
look at the cool fight animation or, something like that. And I like them equally, right? It wasn't hard for me to be happy either way. It was just, it's hard to be a creative with anxiety. That's all. Like
Anxiety.
yeah. Oh man.
Should we talk about that? Are you anxious all the time?
I'm a very anxious person. Just like it's a lot of mind reading that I have. Before I even got on here, I was like, oh, Chris is going to ask me about questions that I have no idea how to answer. And
Oh, please.
Chris is going to judge me, blah, 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 blah. Like all those type of like ridiculous anxious
I want to talk to you because you know so much more than me. Actually, I'm going to segue into a question. So one question, well, there's like two students asked a very similar question, Lauren Halleck and Rodman Rogers. They basically asked, how did you decide what type of graphic design you wanted to pursue, or when did that change, right? Because what you do now is very different than, being in a graphic design studio course in college, making posters, or,
Yeah.
a magazine, right? So
Yeah.
at what point did you sort of figure that out?
I think it was somewhere between like the end of junior year, somewhere around the end of junior year. And then I was excited to like get into my first UX class my senior year, and you were teaching. And I think there was so many people that were like, oh, I don't want to do websites. Oh, that's like terrible. I'm going to be like a boss graphic designer where I make dope posters and everyone's going to want them on their wall. And like, I'm going to do merch for bands and stuff. I was like, I love all that stuff. But honestly, the concept of interaction design and like designing these really complex systems it hit me on both sides of the brain. Like I was all about, I'm very, very left brain person, but I love art and I love the beauty that art can bring. So I felt like UX sort of encompassed all of that for me. So I think I was pretty set on it, probably second half of junior year. And then, and I was also, I'm going to be a designer and developer. And then I don't know if you remember this, but I get into like, it was like first day of my class with you. And I don't know, I like to challenge people. And I was like, so what are you telling me, Chris? Like, I can't be a designer and a developer at the same caliber. And you were like, no. And I was like, no, that's not true. I can. Like, I was so mad at you that day. I was like, Chris is telling me that I can't. And now I totally agree with you. You were absolutely correct. I was a stubborn little
Thank
jerk,
you.
But
Just make sure that one's definitely staying in. We're not going to edit that out.
I was so adamant that I was going to like do design and development. And now I'm like, oh God, thank God I don't have to code.
Yeah. Yeah. I still hold to that. It would be a rare person that can do both of those really well. And
yeah. And at the time I was minoring in computer science. So like I was in those classes where they were talking about that.
it's such a challenge. I mean, I like the challenge of trying to figure out some code once in a while, but there's a certain point where, right, the ideas you have are just like, oh yeah, if it does this and it moves this way and that's the interaction. Yeah, but I can't code that.
Yeah.
So it's like,
right. It just burst your bubble a little bit,
yeah.
right?
It's like, okay, I need somebody else to program that because
Right,
I
right.
can never do that. We got to wrap up. Here's my pop quiz.
Okay.
So quick
Pop quiz.
question. So favorite work beverage?
Oh, matcha latte.
Whoa, that's a new one. Favorite after work beverage?
Oh, a sour beer.
A sour beer. Okay.
Yeah.
Sketchbook, blank or gridded?
Gridded.
So this one's specifically for you. Favorite UI pattern?
Oh. I like toggles. I like toggle switches. I'm such a nerd, but like I love toggles.
That is such a nerd answer. Toggle switches on and off. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes or no. Let's see. When you're working, if you listen to music, what genre of music do you listen to?
So it depends on what mood I'm in, right? So if I'm in like a situation where I have an end of the day deadline, it's gonna be it's gonna be lo-fi hip hop on Spotify, where it's just like I don't really hear music or I don't hear the lyrics. It's very like you
Getting you
zone
into the
out.
flow. into the
Yes,
groove.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
my flow music. If I don't have a deadline, but I'm working and I'm trying to like get in my mind, it's a lot of different things. I love pop and I like pop punk and I like just anything that I can jam out and sing to while I'm designing. I love singing. So I do that a lot.
When are we going to see that on Twitch? The
Oh,
singing?
I did that before actually, and I have deleted the VOD and will never go back.
All right. Okay. Netflix, Apple TV, Disney, or Hulu?
Hulu.
Yeah.
Hulu, yeah.
So that's what I read. You were binge watching favorite show. What's the favorite show on Hulu that you've watched or you are watching?
Oh man. Well, I Hulu I use for like my current airing shows. So it's not really binging. I'm doing the one at a time on Hulu.
Yeah.
So I would say if I had to pick that, it'd be like A Million Little Things is really good on ABC. Very nice social drama. Oh, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is back, which I very much like. Very musical type of show. Very like fun and silly.
Oh, yeah.
But if it were Netflix, it'd be like Parks and Rec. That's like my go-to.
Yeah, those are the questions. Any final
fun.
thoughts for any of the students out there or designers that might want to transition to UX?
Yeah, for sure. I would say definitely for people looking into UX, it's the same way you think about things. I think it's just a matter of learning accessibility and like caring for users' needs. It starts with the user, right? I would say I have worked with and currently work with multiple people who have graduated from the General Assembly course for UX design, and it is very comprehensive and helpful and creates smart thinking designers in terms of UX.
Erica Cotten of Salesforce.
Yes.
And the College of St. Rose.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you.
Yeah, great talking to you too, Chris.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So what do we learn from Erica? Research. Research is definitely important. It will inform your design projects, help you create experiences that communicate to your audiences. So get out there in the field and do some design research. Also play some games, whether it's on Twitch or somewhere else. Play some games, video games, board games, outdoor games. Have some fun. Thanks to Erica Cotten of Salesforce. If you have any comments or questions for me or any of the guests, please leave them in the comments and subscribe so you can get the next episode of Design Futures. Until then, go learn something. Your future depends on it. Thanks for listening. See ya.